Ladies and gentlemen of the Cinemaniacs audience, we have a very special guest today. Uh, it's the first time we've ever done something like this, so
Yeah.
it's very exciting and kind of starstruck right now. And well, you heard him laugh there. We have Mr. Sean Chandler of the YouTube channel Sean Chandler Talks About.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Always
Yeah.
fun to talk movies.
Thanks for agreeing to this. It's kind of wild. I didn't think I'd even get an answer, and here we are.
Yeah.
I always say I started this channel or my YouTube channel because I love to talk about movies way too much, and I try and stay true to that. That if someone wants to have me on their channel where I don't have to do any editing, let's talk about movies all you want.
That's fair. I mean, that's very fair. Yeah. I think I view you in a higher light than maybe I should, but yeah. So we're just gonna. I mean, the most recent movie that we've seen is Spider-Verse. I know you've seen
Yeah.
Transformers and Flash. What
Yeah, it's been a busy week for press screenings.
What'd you think of those? I know you probably can't say too much.
I guess the embargo's lifted on both of them, so I can. So,
Oh, okay.
I guess you guys that I'm talking to right now will be the first to hear some of my extended thoughts. So
right.
I loved the Flash. I don't know if it'll play. I think it'll. I'm fascinated as to how this movie will play with people because it seems like its opinions are kind of all over the place with it. Of a lot of us are loving it. Some people are like it's good, it's fine, but here's the faults with it. I watched it and for me it was like No Way Home, but for DC and better with a better story, better motivation for setting the actions, everything to take place. But kind of that No Way Home specialness kind of depends on how much mileage you get out of the specific cameos appearances from past people. So I'm 41. Batman 89 was one of the first movies I saw in the theater. It's one of my earliest theater memories. Obviously, that's huge for me. For most of my audience, for I'm assuming you guys,
Yeah.
you were not there in 1989 watching Michael Keaton.
I was with you. I was there.
Now that you mention that, you were just 2 seats over. That's right.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people, it's a 35-year-old movie, so the amount of mileage you get out of the like, wow, Michael Keaton's back
Yeah.
depends on how much Michael Keaton means to you. And there's kind of there's other little fun things that they do with it, but for me it was really special, but also with a better story than No Way Home. It's really funny. It's very emotional, heartfelt in what it's kind of trying to do. So it really worked on that level. Rise of the Beast, it's okay. It's I literally just shot my review for it right before we did this, so I've been thinking about it quite a bit for the last 30 minutes. It's essentially kind of the average of the Michael Bay movies and Bumblebee from a few years back. Where the
Okay.
Michael Bay movies are all this gigantic spectacle, crazy wild plot, and you don't even know what's going on. It's so convoluted. And then Bumblebee, more simple, straightforward, character based. And this is kind of like the middle point, to where the story's much easier to follow, the characters are better handled, but you also don't have just that epicness of the Michael Bay movies.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have the faults of the Michael Bay movies, but it also doesn't have its strengths either. So it's like very, very much in the middle. It's good. It's enjoyable. It's very watchable. It's not going to be as irritating for people like you think like Age of Extinction. It's like 3 hours of noise. It's just so bombastic and over the top. It's like 2 hours straightforward Transformers stuff with characters that are more likable, make more sense. But the character work's not as strong as Bumblebee. The action isn't as epic and cool as the Michael Bay movies. Right, they're kind of in the middle.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, that's the whole appeal of the Michael Bay is the action.
Right.
And then yeah, I mean, if you got a better story than the Michael Bay movies, I mean, I think you win automatically.
Well, and I think it's kind of like if this movie, if this like script, this story was done by Michael Bay 10 years ago, all of a sudden you easily have the best Transformers movie. Like if you have just like characters that are better done, better handled, but also with Michael Bay's just sense to just like crank everything up to 11, the way that he's able to shoot his action, and even you kind of think like the end of this movie, it's in the trailer, this isn't a spoiler or anything, but it's just kind of like middle of nowhere big gigantic battle. It's epic in its own sense, But as soon as you do Dark of the Moon and your battle is set in Chicago, and everyone talks about that movie, like what do they talk about? Like this worm comes out of the ground and destroys a skyscraper in downtown Chicago because it's so memorable and it's so well shot. You can tear the characters and plot of that movie to pieces, but it absolutely delivered what people bought a ticket for, which was to see that worm come out of the ground, take out a skyscraper while people are like raccoon suit flying through. Like it absolutely delivers all of that stuff. And you watch this movie and the spectacle's good. Like I'm not saying that it's a bad finale or anything, but when you've in this exact same franchise, you've seen what Michael Bay did in downtown Chicago, watching generic location robot fight. It's not as impactful. It's not as potent. So if you're looking for the spectacle, Michael Bay's done it better. And if you're looking for the character work, Bumblebee did it better. But that doesn't make this movie bad. That's what when I talk about it, it's always negative comparisons, even though the movie is actually good.
Yeah.
Because it's good enough. Yeah. That's the way to put it. Like now I need to reshoot my review. Now that we've said that, I figured out what I'm going to say. Like
redo the whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. That I've cracked the code of the language right there. I keep being negative because there are better things of each of it, but that doesn't mean it's bad. There we go. That's the sentence I need to loop that in. When you watch my Rise of the Beast review and you hear that line looped in and it's B-roll footage on top of it, now you were there when I figured out how to talk about the movie.
We helped make his video. Nice. We're going to be a part of a Sean Chandler video.
Nice.
A piece of history.
Yes. Isn't it like watching one? Isn't it like just watching a Sean Chandler video?
It's talking back at you. The screen's talking back at you right now.
You crawl through the screen, the ring.
Fun times.
Well, and then we saw Spider-Verse. So that's our last thing that we saw. And I know you've already talked that movie, maybe not to death, but you've talked about it a lot now. And we don't have to really get into that because I feel like that's a whole new discussion. But you liked it. I mean, you said you liked it, right?
It's way up there.
Yeah. And
I don't know where we're going to be in December, but like The Flash, Cross the Spider-Verse, Air, Guardians 3, those are the ones that are in that top 4 for me. Like, oh, I love these movies. It's going to be a tough competition in the end of the year. And we're not even halfway through the year yet.
Yeah. And then it's everything that's come out so far, and then the Marvels.
yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, of course.
yeah. But I do agree with. I think we both kind of agree with the sentiment that you've made about how it's not a complete movie. Yeah. It's definitely it drops off. It's definitely not complete, and it's hard to judge since there isn't an ending to it. I personally. I find it easier to judge just because it like for me it kind of felt like this movie changed my life. It's kind of the best comparison I've made I think is that it's this year's Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And ironically both multiverse movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just in the way that I felt when I was watching it, it felt like that feeling after it was over, I think.
Right.
I think Everything Everywhere is a little bit different. It's on its own scale, but it's still had the same feeling.
Well, and they're both movies that they do something different with film,
right?
And I've seen. I've been making a lot of comparisons to Pixar. Across the Spider-Verse cost $100 million. Pixar's Elemental that comes out next week costs $200 million. And so I've been making a lot of those comparisons, having those conversations on the internet of like, why is it that this is able to be so groundbreaking with half the budget, and the Disney Pixar people are like, how dare you? They're groundbreaking in their own way. They're inventing new technology.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong. The Pixar Disney movies, they look gorgeous, but they're perfecting the same thing. They're making the same thing look better and better and better.
Right.
That when you know what you're going to get from a Pixar movie, what it's going to look like, the vibe, and there's slight tweaks, changes, and it keeps looking like they're incredible to look at. They are, but I've seen it before. The last one was also incredible and beautiful and groundbreaking. I can use this. I could describe the way I'm going to describe Elemental from just watching the trailer. But you watch Across the Spider-Verse, and it's not just that it was gorgeous animation. It's that I've never seen animation like that before. And I've never seen animation used like that before. Same thing with Everything Everywhere All at Once. I've seen multiverse before for cameos
Yeah.
to like pull together my favorite franchises. I've never seen it used to be a visual metaphor for a midlife crisis. Like they used the storytelling technique, a plot device they found a way to merge together plot, character arc, themes, undertones, like all of the different things they're doing all in one.
Yeah.
And we're so used to seeing more traditional, straightforward things that can be very well done. Pixar's put out a bunch of fantastic, top-tier, S-tier animation films, but it's a certain straightforward, I've seen that version and they perfected that. And then I watch Across the Spider-Verse, I watch Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I've never seen that before. I've never seen film done like that before. And so I'm feeling and experiencing something different and new.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yep.
It completely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, so I guess we can lead into I know you've pretty much everything I have on here you've probably already made a video about, but I think it'd be fun to talk one-on-one about it all.
Can we fight about it viciously? I'll get super angry if you ever disagree with me. I'll storm out of here. Throw my headset down.
Yeah, you'll just walk right out of here. Your camera's still on and everything.
Yeah, just you'll get is that light. You'll
Yeah.
get Funkos behind me.
Yeah.
Ah, gotcha. And Darth Vader.
Oh yes. What you got? What's on your TV back there?
Oh, that's the Apple TV screensaver. Is what that is.
Fancy.
It was the Apple TV menu, so you could see all the apps that I have, and then now it's gone to screensaver mode. So I forgot to put up. Do you want me to put what image would you like me to put up there real quick? What are we going to talk about? I'll put an image up.
Search Big Yoshi.
Big Yoshi?
Yeah, like from Mario. Look at Big Yoshi, and there's an image of a really round Yoshi.
I've discovered it. Okay. The ambiance is set. There we go. Yeah. Now we have the proper atmosphere to have this discussion, I feel.
Yep. Yeah. So, starting off, I want to know one-on-one, what are your most anticipated movies for the rest of the year? I know you've made anticipated movies list, but for the rest of the year that's yet to come out, what is that you're most looking forward to?
Okay, so the one I want to go right to, The Creator. This is one that people aren't talking about. That's why I want to talk about it first.
Yeah.
It's from the director of Rogue One and Godzilla. So he hasn't put out anything out over 5 years. And Disney gave him over $100 million to tell an original sci-fi story. They put out the trailer a week or two ago. And they're actually... Disney took a shot on, like, all right, here's a bunch of money. Go to do something new that's sci-fi. I'm so excited to check that one out. A buddy of mine saw it at a test screening about a month ago.
Okay.
And he said it was fantastic. And he goes to a lot of these test screenings. And they pull you back into a focus group afterwards. And what he said was, normally, people they have lots of different, I liked it, I didn't like it. People are all over the place. He said they struggled to find anyone that didn't say that it was great.
Wow.
And so, on pure concept, an original big budget sci-fi film, I want Hollywood to do more of that. So right off the bat, on pure concept, I'm excited for it and I'm rooting for it. And I hope it's terrific and one of the best of the year and a gigantic hit to send Hollywood a message.
Yeah.
But then also I know someone that's seen it and he says it's great. So I'm so excited, and I really I like his Godzilla and his Rogue One. Godzilla has its issues, but like on a stylistic level, there's something between Godzilla and Rogue One that you can see what he brings to the table, and he spent over 5 years not putting out a movie, and this is his return. So excited to check that one out. Along these same lines, Rebel Moon in December, the new Zack Snyder sci-fi epic for Netflix. Zack Snyder, you never know what you're gonna get. I love Zack Snyder, but that's what's kind of fun. Sucker Punch, I think is a terrible movie, but it's a super interesting terrible movie that's gorgeous to look at. This is what wild crazy thing, and people always have passionate opinions about his stuff, but that's good because he does interesting movies. So him trying to do it, like maybe he pitched this at some point in time as like a Star Wars idea. Maybe it's like really unclear what the interviews have said. And like apparently at some point in time he pitched Star Wars, and I think he took some of those ideas and turned it into this, and it's part 1 of 2. I can't wait to check that out. Speaking of part 1 of 2's, Dune Part 2. I was a big fan of the first Dune, and I said in my review, I literally said in my review, if this thing doesn't get a part, as soon as they announce part 2, my score will go up like this. And then a week later, they announced part 2, so my score went up like this. So can't wait to check out the next part to it. Of course, Mission Impossible 7, Oppenheimer. Anyway, those are the ones that immediately come to mind.
You didn't say Barbie.
Oh, I knew I forgot something. Yeah, there we go. Barbie. I actually got the Barbie tattooed on my lower back last week.
Oh,
yeah, in preparation. Super excited.
Nice.
That was fascinating to me. That was fascinating to me because it's a movie that there's a group of people that absolutely cannot wait to see it. They are so excited. And then there's a bunch of us really confused by what they're doing. And there's like a gap. There's a huge gap right there of like 25-year-olds on Twitter like, I can't wait for Barbie. This looks so good. And I'm going, really? What? I don't get it. Are you pumped for Barbie? Is that your number one?
Not number one.
Not number one. Yeah,
But
I think
it's in the mix for sure.
Yeah, I think it's fun to say we're going to see Oppenheimer and Barbie on the same day.
Yeah, what a double feature.
Yeah, because we literally are planning to do that.
Yeah,
and then we'll make a whole episode about it, and it'll be hilarious and fun. And
what a bizarre.
I know.
Double, especially like Nolan makes a movie about the invention of the A-bomb. One of the things tied to one of the darkest, most morally complex events in human history.
Yeah.
And ultra pink Barbie, like glowing bright colors. Same day. Bright colors, atomic bomb. July 2023.
Yeah. Well, see, the issue we're having is trying to figure out which one to see first. That's the issue.
Good luck deciding on that.
Yeah.
I'm such in a good mood coming out of Barbie. Let's go into Oppenheimer. Oh, I'm depressed from Oppenheimer. Let's go see I don't know where you go with that.
We go see Barbie. Let's go Barbie. Let's go party. And we walk in. I am become death. You know. It's like, so. It's gonna be interesting, and I think we're looking forward to it. Definitely more than you, but I think Oppenheimer's probably gonna be better.
I'm a Nolan fan for sure, so Oppenheimer's my number one. Yeah. So
we are also. I'm not gonna keep speaking for you. I swear. I think my most anticipated for the rest of the year is probably Oppenheimer, Barbie, and then Asteroid City, which comes out just a few weeks. I'm a huge Wes Anderson. I haven't even seen all his movies, but I love Wes Anderson's style. I am unironically the Marvels because I'm a really biased towards the MCU. Even at their worst, I still can find love in that movie. I think my least favorite movie is probably Black Widow, and I still like have a lot that I enjoy about it. And so I am like, I always put whatever MCU movies are coming out. Those are my most anticipated because I go see them. I've been seeing them since I was 8 or whatever. So I've literally grown up with these movies. Endgame was a huge one for me. It was like a chapter of my life closed, and it was big.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. Where I have to pause and think about some of that a little bit because the MCU's now 15 years old.
Yeah,
and they've been making movies for kind of that I mean, they're for everyone, but very much 15 to 25-year-olds. But when you do that for 15 years, the first generation of fans have now grown up, literally grown up with the MCU, and that's fascinating to kind of think about what even the implications of all of that. But yeah, I mean, the MCU changed the trajectory of my life. I have my channel because of the MCU. It grew because of that excitement, that into that chapter. I rode that wave of that chapter to having a full-time career talking about movies on the internet. And I mean, YouTube's obnoxious, and the channels that make a living
it's dicey,
shouting about Brie Larson and all that stuff. And it's like, did she make some goofy statements about 40-year-old men reviewing movies that now I take very personally? Of course she did. Like, was that a bright way to phrase that? Probably not. But judging someone based off their goofiest, clunkiest 15 seconds of sentiment is weird. But I'm not super excited for the Marvels, but they're the worst of the MCU is very far from the worst movies have to offer. As much as people, these things are dreadful garbage, they're dumpster fires. Like, no, a bad Marvel movie, a bad Marvel TV show, in the spectrum of the universe, they get way worse. They get way less watchable. Yeah. And if you're evaluating it based off of your ideology and your anger with Disney, sure, okay, but you added all that extra stuff in there. As a movie itself, maybe it's clunky, it's awkward, some things didn't quite work for you, you didn't like the humor. That's not the same thing as a dumpster fire. That's not the same thing as a train wreck. They get much worse.
Agree. Yeah. It's I don't know. I do think I feel inclined to make it one of my most anticipated, just because I'm a devout zealot of the MCU. No matter how bad it gets, I'll still love it. Probably. It's in my DNA at this point. My entire family goes to opening nights, so it's like kind of
right. Yeah. And that's where that it's cool that that's a thing. That Disney kind of created. Not just movies that are fun to watch, but experiences that are great for families. And that's like, my kids are getting old enough that I can do that for some of these. And like, and I think through which are the movies that opening night I'll take my kids to. And so one of the things that made No Way Home so special is that I could take my kids opening night to see No Way Home. And they didn't fully they could appreciate the moment that they were in. They will remember being in the theater. They didn't fully get it though. When everyone started clapping and cheering, they were confused.
Right.
Like they know, they've seen the other movies, so I can explain it to them and they get it. But they were also observing it kind of as outsiders, and that was kind of cool to kind of see them so excited to see all these other people so excited. Like, what's happening? Why are people clapping? Like, because we never thought we'd see them again doing this. We never thought we'd see Topi again, and they're back. Yeah. And so they're just in this moment like, wow, I know I'm a part of something special.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I think that's kind of like, it's kind of like the Batman point that you made of The Flash. It's like our generation, we might get it because, maybe we grew up watching it when our parents put it on or something. I mean, we weren't alive when the first Toby movie came out, but I still feel like I was there, And so I had that emotion and that feeling. We had that emotion. But with Keaton, it's going to be probably where we are, Keaton. And everyone else around us is, Right. So it's probably going to end up being like that. But that's a good point to make. I'm surprised you didn't say, for your anticipated films, you didn't say Indiana Jones.
Well, that's because it's the one I have most complex feelings about. Well, so it's also less interesting to talk about than some of the. I worked a little bit backwards. Jumped forward to the creator, and then went to December and worked a little bit backwards, and I didn't make my way back to July. So I literally already have a press invite for it, so I also categorically have started thinking about it differently. But it's the one I have the most complicated feelings about. I love Indiana Jones. I mean, Raiders and Last Crusade, two of my favorite movies of all time. Also love Temple of Doom. Love Harrison Ford. James Mangold, fantastic track record. Ford vs. Ferrari, Logan, that's what he's coming off of. That's a great track record. But I don't trust Lucasfilm. The buzz didn't help with my excitement. And I think just conceptually, the appeal of Indiana Jones, I don't know if it works if he's 80. This idea of a man in his prime, this adventurer that's handsome, intelligent, and he kills Nazis. You jump forward, even like you're totally fine with Indiana Jones killing as many Nazis as possible because they're easy to just categorize as Nazis, not humans. So you don't have to think about the moral implications of him. Like, you can kill as many Nazis as you want. We're all like, yeah, of course, cool.
Of course,
that doesn't translate to 30 years in the future. Who's he killing that you're totally fine with? And so you lose a little something. And then likewise, just the movies were designed to be throwbacks to 1940s serials, and just that practical stunt work, practical effects. And that's not what this is. This is a big CGI spectacle film trying to look like a serial, but it's using digital effects, face swapping an 80-year-old man's face onto a 40-year-old man's body because an 80-year-old man can't ride a horse at high speeds through a crowd. And so there's a lot of things like that just had me really nervous. So it absolutely is a movie that I'm I want to love it. I would be so happy if I watch it and I'm like, you did it. I will be so happy. It has that. It's the movie that kind of has the potential for this. Like, it could rip my heart out, break my heart, make, oh no, what have you done? Why? It has so much potential for that. But if they pull it off, also it has the potential to be way up here too. So that's where of all the movies coming out this year, it's the one that I have the most like just torn, confused feelings about, because it could be like somewhere in the middle. Like, yeah, it played it safe. Like it didn't do anything that really made me mad, but it was just kind of like they were so afraid of making me mad that they didn't do anything that was exciting either.
Yeah.
It could be anything. I have no idea where I'll land on this film.
Yeah, that's very fair, and I think especially with the early reviews and stuff of it not looking too hot, I think it's a very fair feeling to have before it. Not this year, but what's your most anticipated MCU film that has been announced? Do you have one that's like that you're most looking forward to?
Since we, I think I'd have to go probably of officially announced things with the information we've had. I'd probably go Kang Dynasty Secret Wars, simply because I have some idea what those are. I know what an Avengers movie is, and I know generally what those things are, so I know what to make of that. But like there's a lot of things I'm like, I'm kind of excited for that. There's not a ton that it's like it was easy to be super excited for Guardians Volume 3 because I knew, oh, we're gonna close this out. Oh, I know these characters. Oh, cool. And then like Fantastic Four, in a general sense, I'm very excited to see what they will do with Fantastic Four in the MCU. But it also feels like this project that they've been talking about forever and aren't. And they're switching out writers and directors, and they can't make an cast announcement to a degree to where it's like, you're diminishing my excitement because you can't, like, you announced we're going to do Fantastic Four 4 years ago. Same with Blade. I'm old enough. I saw Blade in the theater when it first came out. I saw all 3 of the original film movies in the Blade. And so, we're going to put that in the MCU. And at first I was like, that's cool. Then I rewatched the Blade movies last month. And I was like, I don't know how that translates. Why I'm excited about Blade, what's cool about these movies, it doesn't translate to MCU. And I think they're figuring that out. So once again, they announced Mahershala Ali as Blade 4 years ago, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And they still don't have a script. 4 years later, they're supposed to start shooting. The writer's strike messed that up, but days before the writer's strike shut down pre-production again, they'd hired a new writer. 4 years into this, they're still trying to get the script. And so it's tough to be excited when it feels like they're figuring things out. And that's the thing that, like, I look at a lot of this stuff and I go, I don't know. And I don't know. I think that's what's frustrating because I don't want to be cynical and focus in on the negative on MCU. It changed my life. Like I want to be where you're at. I'm like, hey, I'm even excited about the Marvels. I'd much rather be in that position, but there's just been enough things that have made me go, I don't know. I have questions about all of these. Even Deadpool. I guess Deadpool 3 is technically MCU now. Mm-hmm. And okay, wow, Hugh Jackman coming back. Oh, interesting. Okay, right. Let's see what we're gonna do with this. But still, there's things that I'm like, how does that work under the Disney working for Mickey Mouse? And they switched to the director that did Free Guy and Adam Project, and I really liked both of those movies. But there's a little bit of a fear of does Ryan Reynolds have too much power and he's hiring a yes man?
Yeah,
because I got that impression with Deadpool 2 is that Tim Miller and him eventually started butting heads because Ryan Reynolds became Ryan Reynolds Deadpool.
Yeah.
And so then they brought someone new in and that feels like once again, all three movies have a different director and we're getting, Ryan Reynolds gets the guy that he did 2 movies with before. So he gets the guy that he likes.
That's something I didn't even think about is maybe Sean Levy is a yes man. Maybe. I don't know. That's,
And it's not to say Sean Levy's a bad director. The 2 movies we just referenced, I think Free Guy's great. I really liked Adam Project, and so there's obviously something there that works. But also, if you watch Free Guy and Adam Project, you watch the rest of his filmography, it's not Deadpool. Yeah. Like it is something very different from Deadpool. I can't think of any of his movies that are like crass R. Maybe there's one that I'm missing, but like he's done a lot of family entertainment.
Well, to be fair, he did direct episodes of Stranger Things.
Okay.
And that's probably the darkest he's ever done.
And it shows versatility. So, that's interesting. That's a little something in there. I don't want to put Sean Levy down because it's not that I question him as a director. It's just kind of like I look at it and go, is that the? I don't know, just question marks. Like
right.
And I in general, I think I'm a little bit cynical or cynical is the wrong word. Skeptical of bringing Hugh Jackman back. Excuse me. Entirely because Logan was such a good farewell. And that desire, like, we need to be able to say goodbye. And a finale's a finale. And people mess with, like, well, what you don't understand, Sean, is in the timeline. Like, we're going multiverse. I understand that, like, Logan itself was, like, set in the future. Like, I get all of that. I'm not questioning, is there a way in canon and continuity to pull this off? Like, I get it.
Yeah. But
we said goodbye. As an audience, we said goodbye. And it was really good. And you're not just bringing him back to like have him, say F you to Deadpool or something. It's that you're not doing it for like a little joke that'll make everybody laugh. Like, you're right. It's not like one of those little moments. Like in X-Men First Class, he shows up just to do like this one line. It's fantastic. Yeah. You're not doing that. You're literally bringing him back. He's actually back. A co-lead of the movie. And so we said goodbye, and you stuck the landing, and you're undoing the stuck landing. So I'm immediately skeptical. I want to love it. I mean, I've been watching. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is a big part of what kicked off the modern era of comic book movies. Right. Blade, X-Men, Spider-Man 2002. That kind of over a span of about 4 years, those 3 movies led to what we have today. And Hugh Jackman was a nobody before he was like, he wasn't even supposed to be Wolverine. It was supposed to be Dougray Scott, but they had reshoots for Mission Impossible 2. So Dougray Scott had to drop out. And so this random guy that did musical theater, Hugh Jackman, steps in. Like, this is it's a special casting for me. I love the guy. And he seems like a great guy. My wife and I, a few years back, went to go see his live show. We drove to Houston to see him do his live stage show. It's fantastic. Like, he really is the greatest showman. Like, he's a fantastic performer, fun, storyteller. He's the whole deal. Yeah. But, man, it was so good. You stuck the landing. It's such a good farewell, and you're undoing it. I just have those question marks. So anyway, that's all sorts of thoughts that I could talk about all. But Thunderbolts. I think a lot of it also is they don't have as many writers and directors that I'm as excited about. Like Thunderbolts, I look at the concept and some of the maybe they're going to the celestial that's in the ocean to go get adamantium.
Mm-hmm.
Like I heard that pitch and maybe that's the plot leak, and I went, oh, that's cool. I like that. Like doing a Suicide Squad type thing to go cool. I like some of these characters that were just side characters throughout Phase 4. Let's squish them together. Cool. But I look at the director and writer and I go, I don't know who these people are.
Right.
And at the same time, when they cast or hired some guys that directed episodes of Community to direct Captain America: Winter Soldier, that's what happened. They literally hired directors of sitcoms to do Winter Soldier. That worked out great.
Right.
So they've hired some of these kind of out of the blue people, and it's turned out great. But it feels like that hasn't been what we've gotten in the last few years. So I just kind of look at it and I go, I don't know who some of these people are. The writing hasn't been as strong recently. The story group seems to be struggling a little bit more with rewrites and reshoots and everything. So anyway, I'm rambling too long.
No, you're all right. That's what we're here for. It's
I am supposed to talk movies too much.
Yes, that's your whole shtick. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That is why you exist on this planet, is to talk.
That is true. That is, I have a gift, and it is babbling too much about movies. So if I were to ever give and to play with remotes that I'm not supposed to be playing with. That is my purpose, to talk too much. And if I were to fail to do that, if I were to give a concise answer, a short answer, I would be failing to be who I am.
Yeah. And you'd be failing us because we wanted you to come on here and talk too much.
The last thing I would want to do is give you a short answer that stays on point. That would be devastating.
Yeah, because I could have asked you, what's your most anticipated movie of the year, and you could have just been Barbie.
Make a list, no explanations, just say the titles and move on.
Right.
I wish I could do that. I so desperately wish I could do that. I literally can't. I always have to pause and ramble on something.
Just a 10-minute episode of a podcast where it's just listing off movies that you want to see, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
but instead, I'll stop and I have to tell you a story about my friend who's been to a test screening, and then we'll start talking about Godzilla and Rogue One and why they're actually really good, all just to say, the creator comes out in September.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of the creator it's not a superhero movie, it
is not.
It doesn't sound like it.
Maybe it is. I haven't seen it. Maybe we'll be surprised.
We don't know. Well, I saw a movie recently that I know you I don't know. Well, you might have seen it. I don't know. But Blackberry. Did you?
I have not seen it. It is I wanted to, but I was just busy all throughout May.
Right.
And we had some family stuff come up with, so I wasn't able to make it out to the theater, and it wasn't playing at the theaters that are on my side of town. So I actually literally saw that you can watch it at home now. I'm like, maybe I'll watch that. So I've not seen it yet, but it's very much on my radar, and I've found a way to watch it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I saw it with a different friend of mine. Yeah. So it's actually I think it's the only movie that I've talked about on here that he didn't see with me. So I drove out of town to go see it so we could talk about it. But it was good, and I think this kind of leads into the next question is I think it's possible, or I'd like to see Glenn Howerton maybe get some recognition for his performance, whether it be a Golden Globe, something like that. I think he was so good. And that leads me to my next question, which is there anything that's out that you think could be nominated for an Oscar or something?
Well, that's not normally my strong suit.
It's not ours either.
Yeah, I'm a grown-up kid, so I think you immediately go to what projects have been put out by Oscar winners that are getting praise. So naturally, you look at Air from Ben Affleck, who directed Argo, that won Best Picture. I don't know if it's probably too early in the year, too straightforward of a film, too much of a crowd pleaser to get modern day buzz, but you have to put it on the table. From there, I don't know what would be in that category that is getting that kind of chatter just yet. It's pretty normally because of the there's the marketing side of award season, where people have to remember it in order to vote for it, and we all have a little bit of recency bias, and so they tend to put out the stuff that they want that's in that category starting in the back half of the year. So I don't have any that like Air's the one that I immediately come to mind because I liked it and it got great reviews and it's from an Oscar winner. And Ben Affleck also and Matt Damon also won for Good Will Hunting. But I don't know. I'm trying to think what movie have people been talking about. You think, like last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
That came out in the first half of the year. And that was dominated. Obviously, went on to win a bazillion awards.
Yeah.
I can't think of a movie that's in that category because like Blackberry got fantastic reviews, but it doesn't. Whatever reason, it didn't get traction. Mm-hmm. Like it didn't. Like I don't know if they didn't have the marketing budget or whatever it was, but I mean, I saw like one trailer for it. Just so little buzz, and I was like, "Oh man, I want to check that out." And then it just didn't even play near me, and I was out of town for my nephew's graduation, and some other stuff kind of came up. I I couldn't get to the theater as much in May. Right. So yeah, I don't know. That's a long way of saying I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, the only movie that I can really think of that I honestly kind of feel very strongly probably will at least be at the Oscars is probably Spider-Verse because the first one, I mean, people are saying that this is better than the first one, and the first one won best animation. So
yeah, I mean, if it's not nominated for best animated picture, either something's gone terribly wrong, or wow, what are we in for the rest of the year with animated movies if that doesn't crack the top 5? So I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if that didn't win best animated picture. There's buzz of people also said like, I don't know, maybe this thing should be. There's a lot of people that feel like if you put best animated category, you diminish animated films. You say like, well, you guys can't really compete with real movies, so we need to give you your own category so that you. There's always been kind of that sentiment in there, and it's one of the things that holds back some potential movies just nominated for best picture, that they created a category so they didn't have to do that. Well, we don't want to take away from real movies, so we give you your own category. Feels like this could be a movie that is nominated for just best picture.
Yeah.
Like, feels like unless something crazy happens, I could see it just easily being a lock for best animated, but also I wouldn't be surprised at all if it made it into the other one.
Right. Yeah. You think Elemental tops it? It's like
man, Pixar just feels like they're, I don't know, feels like there's something that the spark's just kind of missing right now.
Yeah, they're losing it.
Yeah, it's just like everything just feels like a little bit stale. It's not quite as exciting as it used to be. And it's not that things are dreadful.
Right,
Just like some of that, just a little something's not quite there. And like Elemental comes out in a week and there's just no buzz. And most of the buzz in the chatter is like, oh yeah, you excited for Elemental? Like it's that kind of thing. It's almost like a punchline to a joke. But that's not even that people are like, Elemental looks awful. It's just like, yeah, I mean, I've seen a Pixar movie kind of like that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Another one of these.
Yeah, it'll probably get the same amount of buzz as like Luca, something that was out. And isn't this the first one that's come out in theaters since like whatever the last one was?
Well, I mean, maybe this even goes to show you how not great of a stretch they're in. Lightyear was in theaters.
Oh wow!
But exactly, you forgot about it.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
Like a movie starring Buzz Lightyear came out a year ago this month.
Yeah,
and it just didn't, starring the guy right behind you on the poster, and it didn't sink in because they're not making that mark like they used to. and it's kind of weird. Like,
It is
that
weird.
Pixar feels like they for 15, 20 years were like here. They were the
Right,
top
yeah.
guy very easily, and now it feels like the Lord and Miller Animation Studio always knock it out of the park. DreamWorks is having a great run, and I don't have any real sentimental, nostalgic value for DreamWorks. DreamWorks is an animation, or DreamWorks is a studio came out when I was in high school. I wasn't watching animated movies when I was in high school. I wasn't watching animated movies when I was in my early 20s. And so, like Shrek, I didn't watch Shrek for the first time until I had kids.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I have no nostalgia for DreamWorks because I didn't grow up with them.
Yeah.
But they've been like, they've had put out some really good movies over the last few years. Like, oh, they're as strong as they've ever been.
Yeah.
And but then you look at the stuff coming out of Disney and Pixar, and you go, they're tripping up a little bit.
It is, and I don't think they've put anything out that has felt super special since probably Coco. It's that's probably the last thing. I mean I think my dad cries pretty easily at Pixar movies, but that one gets him, and we haven't seen anything that really gets us yet since that. So
Yeah, and like the I don't know, it feels like they're kind of going like more niche in a lot of these. Like, we're gonna do Lightyear, but it's like a deconstruction of a hero, of like
Right.
he's a hero past his prime. Like, well, that's not as broadly as accessible. And then you go Turning Red, it's about puberty in Canada 20 years ago in an Asian family. Okay, before that is Soul. It's about a middle-aged man who's into jazz.
Yeah.
Like, kids love middle-aged men going through a midlife crisis. It's like like certain things that like it just feels like they're being too specific with some of the stuff. Whereas like Finding Nemo, it's in Australia, but
Right.
like it's not in Australia in a sense to where that matters. It just means characters have, it's like a fun detail, blah blah blah, Wallaby Lane or whatever. Like it's like people have accents, but it's not in any way something that makes it confusing or like narrows the focus of who would resonate with it.
Yeah.
Where, my kids, we watched Soul, and that was fine. They've never wanted to rewatch it the way that Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, Incredibles,
Right.
Toy Story, Ratatouille, like all the other ones kind of like connected. Now that era where they could tell a weird story about a rat controlling a man to cook food being guided by a ghost. Like, it's super weird,
Right. Yeah.
but it still was relatable for adults thematically and entertaining on a kid's level. And it seems like they've kind of something in the recent, they just don't have that like they did before.
yeah, that's I completely agree. I think Sony and DreamWorks are they're topping them right now. Yeah.
And even just think on an animation level of,
yeah.
for half as much money, they're making much more interesting looking animated films.
Yeah.
Puss in Boots, like it had a specific look where it's like trying to have a 2D look to it while being 3D, and so
Right.
blending them and just kind of like it wasn't across the Spider-Verse like groundbreaking, but it was interesting. Like, oh, cool! This is a neat little way to do something a little bit different. Half the budget of Elemental, half the budget of Strange World, and
Yeah. I forgot about that.
exactly. Like, Disney movie came out 9 months ago, and it just completely is not leaving a mark. They're just forgettable. And
I didn't
even
even-
and you didn't
Yeah.
miss much. And that's like, and it's like an adventure movie. I should be really excited about it, and they found a way to make it weird, and like the plot twist. I was like, it literally ends with a lecture. It ends with a lecture. Like, we're going heavy-handed with this one. And the characters are so unlikable. It's like the worst dad character in movie history, and they try and present him as, like, I don't know. It was yeah.
Weird.
Like, there's a lot of things in it that were almost great, and then so many things that were so overtly bad. But yeah, it was weird that like how far off they are and misreading the room and spending $200 million on movies, and then Across the Spider-Verse does something more interesting. Even I don't know all the connections to it, but like the Ninja Turtles movie coming out in a couple months. I think I might be the director of Mitchell's vs. Machines, so I don't know production company who's making it, but it has some connections to the Lord and Miller group. And once again, you look at it, and it just looks like something a little bit different. It clearly inspired by that vein of Lord and Miller and the Across the Spider-Verse, Mitchell vs. the Machines. You can see where it's coming from, but it looks different and interesting. And it's ninjas as turtles fighting with interesting animation. And as I watched the trailer just a couple days ago, and I was like, Disney, you can't, like, you're just perfecting what you already perfected. Like, it already looked, we've been saying your movies look fantastic for 10 years, for 20 years, forever. So now, but you have to do something new and different. Like, just getting making your weird creatures in Strange World look that much more detailed. Like, it's already pristine. You don't need to spend $200 million. Get somebody in here to change up the game. So I see something I've never seen before.
Right.
But even Ninja Turtles is doing that, and Disney's not.
Yeah, it does seem like, and it's funny because the only thing we have to compare Ninja Turtles and like Puss in Boots animation to is Spider-Verse. Like, we all go, oh, it looks like Spider-Verse. And so it really shows you how much of an impact that movie has had on animation. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
And immediately, and you point to like these Lord and Miller things, and whether it's the visual onomatopoeia or just the integration of multiple animation styles, and you use that as a point of reference for interesting animation, and you don't for Disney or Pixar. Disney, the original animation feature studio, they're the groundbreaker. They have been the top guy for 80 years, 80 plus years, but they're not breaking ground anymore. And then in the world of CGI, Pixar, the groundbreakers, and they're not that anymore.
Yeah. It's kind of a post Pixar world right now. And hopefully they can pick it back up. You know, maybe they'll come out with something that really shakes it up, but it's not looking like it right now.
When you stop and think about it, like the history of Disney, they've done this.
I mean, yeah.
Like you have the golden era with the Pinocchios and the Bambis.
Yeah.
And then you have the war era, which are not good. And then you get to the 50s, and all of a sudden you have Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, not Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty. And then you get to the 70s, the 80s, Black Cauldron. But then you have the Renaissance, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, this incredible run. Then you get to the zeros, and all of a sudden you have Home on the Range.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what like, and you have several years of like, what are these movies?
Yeah.
But then you get The Princess and the Frog, and you get Tangled, and then you get Frozen, and you get Wreck-It Ralph, and they're great again. And so Disney's always kind of done this. And so you stop and think that if Pixar's following kind of that same trajectory of like, you have eras that are great, and then you get someone in charge they're not as good as running the studio, and they lose their way, and maybe 5 years from maybe they haven't even hit rock bottom yet. Maybe it's going to get real weird and And so John Lasseter was the guy that was like, Disney got a lot better when John Lasseter, guy that was over Pixar, took over all of Disney. So all of a sudden, the last decade, Disney got a lot better. Pixar dipped a little bit, but there's still some great stuff last decade because you saw John Lasseter. And then for his personal misconduct, he's been out. And ever since then, both of those studios have started to not be as strong because they don't have as good of a talent on top. And that's not in any way to say that you should have kept a guy that had misconduct. That bad behavior is more important than me getting good movies. But at the same time, he was really good at running the studio. And there's that magic thing of having the talent to run a studio. It's a unique skill set. And there's the right person at the right time. Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios. That was magical.
Oh, yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy over Star Wars, I don't think is magical.
Not magical at all.
No. And Kathleen Kennedy's a legend as an executive producer. She's like the greatest of a thing. And then they promoted her to do something different. and she's not great at it. And so you just like, and you can, and I think Disney, because they have these such strong brands, you can see, wow, Kevin Feige did something really special. John Lasseter did something really special. Kathleen Kennedy did not do something special, and and when she was hired, she was the right pick. She made sense on paper when she was hired, but also it became very clear by 2019, no, she's not the right person.
Yeah.
Get someone in here that's a visionary.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm rabbit trailing a little bit.
Star
Wars, Kathleen Kennedy.
I'm not even like, you're the Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
So I don't even really have that strong of an opinion on the Star
Do you have a George Lucas tattoo on your right bicep?
No, sadly no. Sadly no. George Lucas.
Not yet.
Yeah, no 3PO head.
Oh man, not yet. Maybe we can go get matching Star Wars tattoos. That's the plan.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, don't leave me out. I may not be a huge Star Wars fan, but I'll get Luke. I'll get Luke on my body somewhere. Big Yoda face or something.
Old man cranky Luke that throws the lightsaber, or young hopeful Luke?
I think cranky, because it'll make people mad when I show them that. I'll be like,
I love Star Wars.
That's good. Remember the part we threw the lightsaber? That's my favorite part. So that's what I
when he disrespected the entire franchise. That was a good part.
Yes. Is he a Demon Slayer fan?
Yeah. Well, we're both. He's much more the anime guy.
Yeah.
Him. We. There's a third guy that we usually have, not on here, but in our life. There's three of us, and they're the anime guys,
Yeah.
and then I'm. It's kind of weird. It's a weird dynamic. It's like we're the movie.
You're
guys.
a poser. You're pretending to be an anime person by wearing the shirt to fit in with. I've caught you.
To be fair, I've seen.
Yeah. To be fair, I've seen the whole show, and I do like anime, but I'm not. I don't know as much as he does, or like this other guy that we got, you know.
Yes. So I've never been an anime person. It kind of started to transition over to the U.S. right as I was graduating high school. So normally people kind of catch hold of it in grade school with Dragon Ball or something like that, and kind of go down the rabbit trail. And so I was a little bit too old to catch hold of that. So I've never been into it. But like my son, he's gonna be an anime kid, or like asked him, what's your favorite movie? He said Dragon Ball superhero, whatever. Like he, and it's all Fortnite based. Fortnite introduced him to Dragon Ball, and he's like, I want to check that out. And they had one episode in Fortnite, so he watched that one episode, and then he was like, hey Dad, can we get Crunchyroll? Why do you know what Crunchyroll is? What are you talking about? He was like, I want to watch Dragon Ball. It's like, I'm pretty sure it's on Hulu. So but we ended up, we do have Crunchyroll now, because he's like going hard down the rabbit hole. So I think in the near future, a bunch of people have wanted me to go in the anime direction and watch more anime. I just couldn't, because my bag of tricks, the way that I talk about movies and get excited about it wouldn't work, because it's not something I'm as excited about. But as soon as it's a father-son thing, the next few years, perhaps there'll be like this big shift, and all of a sudden I'm covering anime because I'm watching it with my kids. They're going to like every day. He's like, so are we allowed to watch Demon Slayer yet? Can we watch it yet? Is it time yet? Like, it's hard pushing me. So we watched like a few episodes of Attack on Titan, and we're about to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
and it's summer break. As soon as I have free time, we might be like just binging through something.
Yeah, I haven't watched. I don't think either of us have watched anime in a while, but I definitely have not watched it in a while. And as soon as I get back on it, I'm sure we might be talking about it on here, you know. So, I think you would. I think if you really got into it, you might find something to like about it. It is different though. It is very like it's obviously it's not Western media, so it's very different. But it's still, there's a lot to like, I think. Yeah.
What I think even the way you're phrasing that, why does my son out of the blue, he watches like one Dragon Ball Z,
right?
And all of a sudden it's his favorite thing in the world, and he's like going down this rabbit hole. And it kind of goes back to Across the Spider-Verse. It goes back to Everything Everywhere All at Once, where everything you've watched fits into this one mold. Feels like it has a certain sameness to it. And then you watch this thing over here, and it's fresh, new, and different.
Yeah.
And so then you love it. So for the same reason that for me, because I was a little bit too late to the party, I watch it and I go, it tells stories differently. It handles character arcs differently, and so I don't connect with it the way that I connect with all this other stuff. But that's the exact same reason why for other people it's so fresh, new, and different and exciting. Or you kind of take it in a different direction. Like my wife has just become obsessed with the movie RRR. Did you guys watch RRR?
No, that's on the watch list.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to watch it because I'd heard things about it, and I try and watch a Bollywood Tollywood movie every year because I have a lot of fans in India and or fans of Indian descent, and they're so appreciative anytime I cover anything. So I really wanted to get to watch it. We watched it, and my wife became obsessed with it, and we'd watched one Bollywood movie before. It's Tollywood, it's not Bollywood, but so it's not like we watched a ton, but she liked that one too. But she became obsessed with this one. So right now she's out of town in Seattle for a work trip, but one of her maid of honor from our wedding is there, and so she showed them RRR, this 3-hour long epic film. Because she just wants to introduce everyone to it because it was just this new thing that was different and so exciting to discover a different way of storytelling, a different way of treating characters and the friendship. And it's just so earnest and honest and goes for it without any shame or any embarrassment. It just goes for it with everything. Yeah. So she fell in love with it instantly. Yeah. And whether that's discovering anime, discovering multiverse stories, new versions of animation, when you discover something new that actually wows you a little bit, it's cool. There's so many movies we watch and we go, that was fun, I like that. But when you watch something and it's like, wow, you can do that with movies, wow, you can do that with animation, wow, you can do that with TV, it's cool. It makes you feel something new and exciting that you want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I think we all strive for difference. We all want something new. So it's nice when things like that come out and we can. I think that's why they get talked about, is because they are like Spider-Verse is different. It's different from the first one, which is already, that one was different, It's so yeah, we all strive for from difference. Yeah. Well, we can jump into some more MCU topic I had here. I wanted to maybe dive into maybe some theories, maybe that you've already voiced, maybe some that you have in the back of your mind, maybe not talked about, and then we'll share ours. So I was what theories do you got that you might want to voice?
I don't know. Theories aren't really what. So it's always the tricky one, especially where my struggle with a lot of the MCU right now is I don't really understand what they're doing. I don't get how some of this ties together. It's tough to have theories when there's so many scattered directions that they're taking everything. And I look at it and I go, how does all this tie together? And I think they're rethinking a little bit of it too because of they're also like, we need to slow down, we need to push some things backwards. I'm not sure our story group's working quite right. So it's tough to guess where things are headed when they're not quite sure where they're headed. So I don't know if I have anything terribly interesting. The one that I touched on a little bit earlier about the Thunderbolts, the idea that part of the way that you bring the X-Men mutants into it is through the Celestials, and through the Celestial coming out of the ocean, and then there's adamantium, and they're trying to harvest it, and all of a sudden that it's this gigantic alien thing is popping out of the ocean, and they haven't referenced it in any Marvel movies in 2 years or whatever. And so if that is what they're doing and they're going to loop back to it, and I've heard that both Captain America 4 as well as Thunderbolts, that might be kind of those two stories tie together, and it ties back into Eternals and this Celestial and what they're doing with what global politics, what are they doing with that thing? I hear all of that. Those rumors and that speculation, that gets me excited for the MCU again, because it's taking this very out there, it feels like its own thing, Eternals, because it doesn't tie into other movies. They weren't in Endgame. So these heroes that have been here a long time, alien thing pops up out of the earth. Nobody shows up to deal with any of it. It's there and we don't talk about it and go, what's happening with this? And so the idea that that happened, it's going to be unique and have distinct minerals on it that will have global implications. Okay, all right, and it ties into multiple movies, a team up film. I hear all that. I love that.
Yeah.
If they can pull it off, we'll find out. That's kind of where I go with a little bit of it. Man, I don't know what they're gonna do with. It feels like they're hitting the brakes on Kang. Even they put out the Loki 2 press deal, and they didn't include. I think they left out Jonathan Major's name or something like that when they said season 2 coming out at this date, and they seemed like they were downplaying Jonathan Majors while they're kind of figuring out what's kind of going on with him. And I mean, I don't even know what you do in that situation. I don't know what the right answer is because he's not convicted. They're allegations that are serious, but they're not it's very ambiguous as to what exactly is going on. And so it's like a PR nightmare. But if you're trying to just the guy at the center of what you're doing for the next 3-4 years, and there's question marks.
He's the face of it.
I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's the title character.
Yeah.
And
that kind of leads into maybe they reconsider, maybe they turn Kang. So far, Kang has only been in one movie, so they kind of have the chance to maybe end Kang right there, and maybe they change Kang Dynasty to maybe it's Doom focused. Maybe it's Doctor Doom that they decide to bring in. It's very possible that they take this chance to. I mean, they could recast, and I think that's probably the most likely option. But
yeah, and it helps. It's like the Spider-Man No Way Home does you a real solid, where we just did this major film that everyone has seen that kind of feels like I feel like it's more of a Spider-Man movie than an MCU film because it celebrates Spider-Man and how much is actually tied to the MCU as a whole. It doesn't it's in there, but it doesn't do that much for it. But all of a sudden, you've created a scenario where variants look very different. And Loki does that, of course, as well, where we're going, we literally have different animals. Alligator Loki. And so they've already laid the foundation to do a recast that doesn't get you in, that, it fits. It literally fits within the canon that we've already established. But, ideally, it goes to trial and he's innocent.
that's obviously everyone.
That it's all a big misunderstanding, but at the same time, if it
we were just kidding.
Understanding we all had a little bit too much to drink and we overreacted. But if that was the case, I think we would have gotten under the rug by now. Things would have come out, and that means it's probably there's enough truth to it. There's something to it that, man, Disney's in a tough spot. I just don't know what you do. Trying to think of who's had this up and down of a first half of a year. I mean, he's the standout, and the Lost Quantumania is going to be the new big bad of the MCU. Everyone's talking about him, and then he's the villain in a Rocky movie, and everyone's he's great. Maybe she should get his own spinoff. Man, he's one of the best villains in the Rocky franchise. This thing's been going on for almost 50 years, and he's one of the best. Man, love him. Oh man. And then also he was in a movie that played at Sundance that got fantastic buzz. People maybe he'll win Best Oscar or Best Actor. Best Oscar is not a category. Best Actor.
Yeah, Best Oscar. Yeah. It's
you have won Best Oscar, my man.
You have won the rights to the entire stadium.
Yes, you get the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, they man, I just don't know what you do there. It is.
It's a tough predicament,
and it's right at the wrong time where the Phase 4 mixed opinions from people. Had some great spots, but had I think more weak spots than the other phases, and people are wanting them to kind of pull it together and focus. And then it's going to focus in on we got our big bad, we got the thing that's pulling it all together. man, and anything like, do they need to do a massive pivot where, like you said, maybe Doctor Doom is something you could do? That if you need to do a big pivot and you look at some of the context of the comics and bring a Fantastic Four in and what goes on in the Secret Wars, Kang Dynasty, Doom could be like what you just change the formula up. And they've already switched out, like supposedly they switched out writers on one of these projects, whichever one it was. They lost the writer on one of our Avengers projects, so like maybe there's some stuff kind of going on with that. But man,
because Jeff Loveness, he left, or he was, I think he was fired from Kang Dynasty. I think they were like, yeah, you've spoiled too much of your movie that you're writing right now. I mean, seriously, because I think he said more in his short time at Marvel about future movies coming out than I had ever heard from any other person that worked at Marvel. Like, I was like, why do we know so much right now? Yeah, it was, so I think they got rid of him. And, I don't know, I think, some theories on my end that I really think could happen. The most recent one, I'll do this because this is something that's topical, is Donald Glover. Spoiler alert for those listening. Donald Glover was in Spider-Verse as his Prowler from Homecoming.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that that maybe that's a sign that they are maybe going to integrate him into Spider-Man 4, which is said to be much smaller in scale. Kingpin is said to be mayor in the Daredevil show, and that's going to lead into the Spider-Man movie. And maybe Kingpin hires Prowler to take on vigilantes to get rid of him because he outlaws them. You know? I mean,
and why do you hire Donald Glover? You just want him in one scene. I mean, like, exactly. It's weird because I mean, even at the time, he's kind of a strange version of fame because he has his music career and acting career, and he's not like an A-list actor, and he's not Taylor Swift famous as a musician, but he's very much someone that you know.
Right.
And he's in this one scene. That's weird. It was weird at the time, and they've just now paid it off. And they're talking about doing a Miles Morales movie. Mm-hmm. And so my thought is, what if what we're trying to do is Spider-Man 4 introduces Miles Morales and has kind of the origin story in there, but it's very much a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, but Miles is a side character in it that sets him up to spin off, as opposed to, so you have this very integrated universe.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's where things are headed, is that, we're going to do, Miles is bringing in live action. Like you said, Donald Glover's right there. If you're going to do that, bringing Miles in makes a lot of sense. And then you can set up a scenario where they've also teased symbiote in the MCU. And so you have Tom Holland, I'm getting out too many names. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, get the symbiote, start turning evil, and Miles can be one of the voices of reason that gets him to snap out of it.
Like in the new game. The new game is going to be like that. Yeah.
And you start pulling some of these pieces together, and you do some really cool stuff that doesn't feel like a rehash. It's something different to do. Yeah.
And Sony is, I mean, they obviously are pulling from the PS4 game for like No Way Home. They had a lot in there, like with Aunt May, and there were some moves in there that he did that were from the game, straight from the game. I think they want to utilize the game story more with like the second movie coming out.
Across the Spider-Verse, his roommate is playing the game, and then it literally says Insomniac Spider-Man in it. That's like to the degree to which they are honoring those video games. Right. They're in Across the Spider-Verse the same way that animated shows of the past are in there. They're right there. Yeah. And they're paying attention, and they know that there's really great things happening there. It is a top tier game, period. Yeah. But it's also a fantastic Spider-Man experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really is. And actually, it's funny the symbiote thing you said. That actually leads into the other theory that I had, which was I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. You are not like a big like comic book guy,
I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as a big like I read some comic books, but I read like some graphic novels and yeah, I mean, I would describe me as a big comic book guy would be overstating how much I read.
Okay, and I think that's fair to say for us too, because we aren't like super big into comic books. We don't read them a whole lot, but we do know a fair amount of things that happen in the comics. And I don't know if you know, you might know this, but in the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars comic, that's where
the symbiote.
Yeah, the symbiote comes from. And my thinking is, I wonder if because they introduced the symbiote in No Way Home, and maybe since Spider-Man 4 is going to be more grounded, maybe it doesn't even pop up or anything, and maybe he gets it in Secret Wars, and maybe they want to save it till then, and it's because I mean he got the Iron Spider suit in Infinity War, so maybe he gets a new suit in Secret Wars. So I think that's
makes sense. It
Yeah.
sells some toys, that's for sure.
yeah, sell some toys for sure. Yeah, but I think that's probably my thinking on that.
Yeah, I think they have several things out there that all seem kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That like they have a bunch of things on the table that you go, oh, that's fun. What you could do with this? That all kind of feel fresh and new and different, and especially with him being out of high school, kind of whatever you do with Tom Holland is, if it's not high schooly and if it's not in space and Avengers movie, it's something new for him.
Yeah.
But they also just have a lot of great prime material things there, whether that's Kingpin, Symbiote, Miles. All of that's a lot of fun. All of it is different.
Yeah. You're right. And it's exciting. You know, it's exciting to see what they could do. You know, and I think the only other kind of small theory that I had was I think it's possible that they could make Deadpool 3 because it's obviously Deadpool 3 is kind of a farewell to the Fox universe because it's like doesn't exist anymore basically. So I'm wondering if they might make this an X-Men, not to say like an X-Men Endgame, but not like where the X-Men are the focus, you know. It's like Deadpool's the focus. At the end, he says something like he just copies Sam Wilson and just goes on your left, and he just like the X-Men come out, and it's like we've done this before somewhere, haven't we? It's like
Yeah.
And I think what better way to do that than with Deadpool, who is self-aware and can say, this has been done before with, and we're doing Endgame, you know. And I think it'd be fun to see, like, because there's the rumors of the like Halle Berry and Patrick Stewart and all the actors coming back. So I mean, why not take that chance to have one final moment, like a true closing of the Fox universe? Yeah.
You didn't think that Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were a fitting closing for super important?
Yeah, those were perfectly executed.
Like that 1-2 punch. Wow, way to end on such a high note.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so funny. I own every single Marvel movie. I don't own Dark Phoenix. I refuse to own Dark Phoenix. I think it's like the only one in the X-Men franchise that I don't have fun with and I recognize is bad. Like I recognize that like Wolverine Origins is not good, but I have like a nostalgia for that movie, so I enjoy it. But like Dark Phoenix is atrocious. it's bad.
There's no reason for it to be as bad as it is.
It really, yeah. Yeah, the like the like forced F-bomb from Cyclops. And he's like if you touch her, I'll effing kill you. You know, it's like well, come on, like, what's the point of this? Yeah. Well, those. Did you have any theories you wanted to speak
Not really.
on?
The symbiote and where they're handling that kind of storyline is where I'm most like interested in, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they could also introduce a new Eddie Brock to the fold, or bring over Tom Hardy, say that he's been the MCU's Eddie Brock. There's plenty of different ways to go with it and stuff. See how they handle Venom, obviously, in the MCU specifically.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
It's very, very exciting. Well, the next thing I had was opinion on the state of Marvel now that Guardians is out, but I think we've covered that. I think we've pretty much.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing to kind of throw in there, we've talked a lot about my concerns for the future, but to contrast that, Guardians 3 I thought was great, but it didn't actually make me feel better about the future of Marvel. It made me feel better about the future of DCU. Because I watched that movie, and what I liked about the movie was James Gunn. Right. And what I liked about the movie is that it didn't feel like it had a bunch of interference from whoever this is, the higher ups, Kevin Feige and his writing team. And so much of what I think messed up Doctor Strange 2, which I really enjoyed Doctor Strange 2 as a Sam Raimi person, but like I very much acknowledge its many issues and get why a lot of people didn't like it. But that was all these people up here fiddling with it. Like, I don't blame the writer. I don't blame the director. If you're ordering 1,000 reshoots and 1,000 rewrites, who's even in charge of this movie?
Yeah.
And Guardians 3 made me go, right, when a project has a writer or director they trust to tell their story, it's really good. When they have a project where they don't, and they keep fiddling with it, it just feels bland. And it feels like it was directed by committee. And it feels like it was reshot a month before it came out. Because it was. And so I look at the future of the MCU, and I think they're aware of it now. I didn't feel like they were aware of it a year ago.
Oh, no.
Feels like Bob Iger's come in, they looked back at Phase 4, and they got the feedback, and they went, okay. All right. And I think that you can look at the box office returns for Quantumania, which opened great for the franchise and then fell hard. Mm-hmm. And then Guardians 3 comes out a couple months later, and it opens soft for Guardians, and then has good legs. Yeah. And I think you just look at that and you immediately go, the brand is not as strong as it used to be. People are more hesitant. People are more skeptical. And they really want you to deliver something good. They don't just trust that you're going to deliver something good. It's not Phase 3 anymore where there's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. And I think they realize that. They know, all right, we need to get back to that level of excitement. Yeah. But I don't think they're there yet. And I don't think that Marvel's will be the project that'll do that.
Oh, yeah, no.
I don't. And maybe I'm
Who
wrong.
knows?
Like maybe it'll turn out to be really good. Unfortunately, it's one of those projects that because the internet is the internet, even if it's really good, we already know that there's a segment of YouTube that's going to hate it no matter what.
Yep.
These three women are bad.
Right. And the flip side to that is that because we already know that, we also already know that if you praise the movie, there's a segment of the internet that's going to call you an idiot. But also, if you criticize the movie, they're going to call you one of those people that are saying everything. Like, you already know it's going to be Little Mermaid dialogue once again. It's that same thing of, like, there's no winning. And the movie's probably going to end up being, it's okay. It's enjoyable, it's fun, but it's flawed. It's probably going to have too much comedy. You can kind of predict where it'll probably fall in the spectrum of Marvel movies. Right. I would guess, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And you also can predict the comment section of.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest part to predict.
Right. and it's the anti-woke people, and then I don't know if you even call them the woke people, the people that anti-woke people.
Yeah.
That's the comment section.
People that are like anti-woke, they don't know what woke means. They don't understand that having a woman in a movie doesn't make you woke. Right. It's like, oh, this character's gay. It's like, so? Yeah.
Well, and it's the what leaders do in moderation, followers do in excess. So these channels that bunch of influence, they go this far. And you could say that it's too far and there's crazy and they're milking a movement, but they go this far. But that also means the comment section just doesn't even understand what they're saying. And they go even further and they get even crazier. And so these people will say things that like rile up a group of people, and they'll say, hey, don't go harass people. Like, if people like to do that, that's fine. But the comment section will go further. And if they get riled up over everything, all of a sudden I have people in my comment section saying that my kids are paid off Disney shills because they like The Little Mermaid. And they're
Oh, that's terrible.
like, come on now. They're little girls. They're the target demographic. Obviously, they like The Little Mermaid. It's 3 little girls. They're supposed to. The movie was designed to cater to them. They don't know anything about your culture wars. And if you're mad at Disney over things that they're doing, I think that's a valid conversation to be had. There's something to be discussed over over Disney strategies, but sure. That doesn't mean you're not overreacting and being super weird about all of this. Why do you care so much about The Little Mermaid? Like, that's weird. Why do you care so much about Brie Larson? There's valid conversations to be had about her, like, saying that I don't need a 40-year-old man to tell me what to think about this movie. There's valid critiques of that. It's weird that you're obsessed over something she said 5 years ago. Super weird.
Yeah.
Like, two things can exist at once. It was a weird statement, and it's weird you're obsessed with it. And that's all. Every one of these conversations feels like that. Of like, instead of having the normal middle ground conversation, like we're each on both sides of it. Let's have a normal conversation here. It's always these people that are crazy, shouting at each other. What? You criticize something about The Little Mermaid? You must be a racist and a sexist. What? What? You enjoyed something about The Little Mermaid? You're a woke, paid-for shill. What? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh man, you just can't win. You know, you can't really have your opinion and win. Well, we only had one more thing, and you, Sean, are very famous on the internet for one reason alone, and that is because you absolutely hate Guardians 2.
That is correct. With a passion. With a passion.
Well, it's from my understanding that you have said that you have grown to enjoy it a little bit more over time. Because of Guardian, the new one.
And the holiday special.
And so is that true? Is that...
Well, I would frame it in light of Phase 4 and watching a bunch of Marvel projects that I felt, I was like, they're lacking heart. They're lacking personality. They feel directed by committee. Something's missing here. And then watch Guardians 2 after Phase 4, and you go, this feels like a James Gunn thing. I might not like the choices he made. I think there's some issues here, but it feels true to a person. And then there's a lot of ways in which Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, there's some choices made with Drax's treatment of Mantis that play pretty differently after Holiday Special and Volume 3, where you see that relationship mature, and you see what James Gunn was doing with Drax. Even with Rocket, there's choices that Rocket makes in this self-destructive path that is part of this grander arc that he's telling about Rocket. And after Volume 2, you just see like, what? Rocket, why on earth? Like, he's insufferable.
Yeah.
And then they make a movie that makes you feel bad for him the whole runtime. That makes you rethink the character. And so it very much is the middle chapter of a trilogy. And so you interpret things a little bit different. So it's a little bit of when you have more points of reference and you have a bunch of MCU, that my big issue with it is it just feels like content to create content. The board said we need shows for Disney Plus, so let's put some shows out. And then you watch this Volume 2, and James Gunn had something he wanted to say. Something you wanted to communicate through these characters. That's a good thing. It's still not like top tier or anything like that to me. I still have issues with the structure and some other things. And like the third act just feels like it goes on forever. And it's just like noise going crazy. But like I appreciated it more. And some of the things that I thought were off-putting were a little bit, they've come off better once you've seen where the Drax and Mantis relationship turns into.
That's fair. Yeah. It's still though your hottest take probably. Would you say?
Yeah, that one got of things that have lingered. That's probably the one that has lingered the longest. And I've had by far the most conversations. Oh, I love your takes. I usually agree with you, except Guardians 2.
Except, yeah.
And it always goes kind of like that, where they wag their finger at me or something. Like they put an emoji at the end of the comment or something. Usually agree with you, except Guardians 2.
Right.
Or a lot. I do get a lot of people like, man, I agree with you a lot, especially on Guardians 2. Finally, someone said what I was feeling. I get that a lot too.
Wow. I mean, I guess there's obviously both people out there of I love it, I hate it. So, yeah. Actually, that was my first. That was my introduction to your channel. I actually watched not specifically that review, but I first started watching you when you started your Road to Infinity War. That was actually
that was the window that changed the trajectory of my life. Legit, like that little window, but between that series, my rankings that came out tied to Black Panther. Those are the first videos I ever did that really took off. And up until January, one of those videos was my most viewed video ever.
Oh, wow.
Because my MCU ranking of the villains after Black Panther was my most viewed video for years, until my Shrek short ranking got over 1 million views. Yeah, Shrek. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where it began, like, oh, this thing's gonna work. Oh, I'm gonna be able to go full time. Oh, this is cool. Yeah, that's so many people I talk to. Yeah, right before Infinity War, it's like, yeah, that's the window where everything changed.
Yeah, and that's where I would say I would say at this point I'm a Sean Chandler veteran. Like I'm a watcher. I'm a veteran watcher. That's probably a fair thing to say. Out of the two of us, I definitely have seen more of your content.
Well, I think I like you more then.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Hey, I'm looking for a new co-host.
Perfect. Do I need to regrow my long hair to fit in?
Yeah.
Is that a requirement?
Yep.
So I cut my long hair back in January 2005. So it's been 18 years without the epic long hair.
Oh, I need it cut. I'm probably gonna get cut soon. But yeah. But your hottest take was Guardians 2. Everyone knows that. Everyone that watches you knows that, I think. I'm trying to think of maybe like my hottest take. I know what like my hottest take is, but it's not MCU related. But it's the only thing that I can think of right now. So I'm gonna say it, and hopefully you react in an okay way. I don't really care for The Shining.
I thought you were a Sean Chandler veteran. I am not a big Shining person either.
Okay.
Well, no, so the language I've always used is that I feel like Kubrick does movies that just aren't on my wavelength.
Okay.
And so like I could watch it and be like, this is different, this is creative. I think I understand why other people love this, but I'm just not getting the vibes out of it that everyone else is. Like I don't watch this and like, wow, this is incredible, and you get to the end of it and it's like, wait, that's where it ends? That feels kind of anticlimactic. And so I've never been crazy about The Shining. So like I actually think I like Doctor Sleep a lot more than The Shining. On some of that's thematic reasons for thematically there's things in it that just resonate with me personally because of my own life and struggles. Right. But I think it has just like a clearer narrative. It's almost like a superhero horror movie in a sense, and then has big ending to it. But yeah, I've never been a big Shining person. So there we agree. You're not. It's not a hot take. It's just a right take.
It's it's a right take.
Yeah,
said from the man himself. Well, I didn't know that, and to be fair, I would still say I'm a Sean Chandler veteran, but I didn't really start watching.
Well, and if you're not a Shining fan, you probably wouldn't watch my content talking about The Shining. I don't like The Shining, so why would you watch my videos about The Shining?
That's fair, but to be fair, I didn't know you put out one about The Shining, but I didn't really start getting into like a broad spectrum of movies until probably like last year. And it's for me, it's always been I've been like watching Marvel superhero stuff, and so those obviously I gravitated towards your channel because of that.
So I probably
That's
didn't.
one of the. It's actually one of the most awkward, frustrating aspects of having an audience is that. I do like live streams on Patreon every week where I'm answering kind of these random questions, and putting out all these videos and appearing on other people's podcasts. And so, like in my mind, I've shared my thoughts on The Shining dozens and dozens of times. And I have a Shining ranking, and I have some other things where I've talked about it. I did a review like 5-6 years back with my buddy Cody about it, and then Dr. Sleep. So in my mind, I've talked about all these different times, but there's no reason to think that everyone that's watched my videos will have watched all of those. That would be ridiculous. Okay. Yeah. And you think like all these people like, I love their channel. Man, I love this channel. When was the last time I watched one of their videos? I don't know. What, 6 months ago? like the way that we actually interact with YouTubers and stuff. We go through phases where we watch their stuff and we watch the ones that kind of interest me or interest you. And it's kind of fascinating the way that kind of works. But the Shining's one of those ones that I have to get into it with people a little bit because what? Why didn't you have The Shining in your top 10 favorite horror movies?
Yeah,
because it's not one of my top 10 favorite horror movies.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't grab me as much as other people.
Yeah, I guess that's my question for you. Why do you think The Shining sucks and Stanley Kubrick is a hack?
Well, I think it's the only Kubrick movie I've seen so far. So he's a hack because no. I honestly, the reason I didn't like it was I feel like it was very drawn out. Apparently the music is something that a lot of people think is like one of the best parts of the movie, and I thought it was annoying. I like the music, the wow, wow, wow. I was like, this is busting my speakers right now. I don't really care for it. And I don't know. It just didn't grab me. I think Nicholson is probably the best praise of the movie. I think that's fair to say Nicholson is the best part of the movie. He's, it's iconic. His performance is iconic. And I don't know, it just doesn't grab me as much. And it didn't resonate with me as much as other people. And specifically the scene, the scene in the bathtub where it's the like dead old lady or something, why is that there? That is the most out of place.
Naked old ladies that are like rotting flesh, that's not your thing?
Well, usually, but
in other contexts, of course.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but no, it's just a movie that I see so much praise for. Like I follow all these accounts and they're like, The Shining, look at this little detail that was in The Shining that you didn't even notice. I'm like,
I obsess over it.
Yeah, and I personally just don't get it. I really don't. Your turn.
I feel about it. Like I feel a lot of times I feel I'm a pretty smart person that did well in college and graduated with high honors. I'm a pretty smart person. Like I watch The Shining and go, I don't get it. I don't get what you guys are seeing. Like there's things I can see that are well done, but like you're obsessing over like this, what about all the symbolism? Didn't you appreciate all the symbolism? No. Well, did you notice it? Yeah, I mean I saw you're pointing out like I can see what you're talking about, but I do not understand why you're like, oh wow, this is the greatest thing ever. Like I'm just not on that wavelength.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, why is it the greatest movie ever made?
Well,
Convince us.
I definitely don't think it's the greatest because I'm more familiar with Kubrick's with his filmography, I guess you'd say, and I think that some of his films, particularly 2001, is like blows The Shining out of the water for me. Like I think 2001 is like peak magnum opus of his like career, basically.
Is that why you're excited for Barbie? Because the first is based off 2001? Showed it to my 8-year-old or 9-year-old, and she goes, "What is going on in this trailer?" I was like, "Chloe, are you kidding me? You haven't seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? What are you, some sort of uneducated Philistine?"
What are you, 8 years old?
This is outrageous, little girl.
No, but I
Anyway, I cut you off there to do my little bit.
I definitely see the I think it's an easy, like, accessible way to how do I phrase this? I think it's I definitely see how you guys can view the Stanley Kubrick, and not just The Shining. I think a lot of his films follow that what am I watching? What am I really feeling right now towards this movie? You know,
Yeah.
A lot of his and The Shining is honestly a light version of some of the things he does in his movies in totality, and like A Clockwork Orange and stuff like that takes it to like some different levels.
Hey, that's what I showed my kids last night.
Oh my gosh.
The opening robbery at the beginning, they had a lot of questions afterward.
Oh yeah.
Their
Oh,
mom's out
God.
of town. It gets crazy over here.
Yeah, it's a party.
We're watching the Human Centipede trilogy tonight.
Oh no.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
something.
eat cheesecake.
No, but I definitely see the complaints. Like it's definitely valid complaints that I think come up. I don't know. I guess the easiest way I can put it is I appreciate it, the things that like the reasons for literally the exact reasons you guys don't really that it doesn't really grab you. It does grab me.
It's the exact opposite of us. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Well, then I guess that's
Like-
a hot take amongst the group.
Yeah.
But what what is your hottest take, do you think?
Hottest take. I don't know.
So I love everything and I hate everything that is meant to be hated.
I don't know. My hottest take. Oh, okay. I actually have a pretty good one. The Dark Knight Rises is like not nearly as bad as people kind of make it out to be. I feel like
Okay.
because people feel like that. At least my opinion, from what I see and stuff, people treat it as like it kills like the Nolan like franchise. Like it's like, oh, the Dark Knight's the only thing that deserves praise from that trilogy. It feels like, but. And then they're like, Batman Begins is more so like 50-50-ish. But Dark Knight Rises, it feels more like people are like, oh yeah, that is like for sure bad. It's like not good at all. Not very much coming from it and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's almost as good as The Dark Knight. Literally.
Okay.
People are weird. So when the Dark Knight Rises was coming out, I was working with teenagers at the time. I had a conversation with one of them. Oh man, Dark Knight Rises, most anticipated movie ever. I can't wait to see it. The Dark Knight's my favorite movie. It's like, oh, have you seen Batman Begins? No, I haven't seen that yet. Is it worth watching? What? You just what? This is your most anticipated movie of all time? Dark Knight's your favorite movie of all time? You've never even seen Batman Begins? You what? What? I can't. Does not compute. My brain is shutting down on that one. I think it's. I would say that The Dark Knight is bottom 2 or 3 Christopher Nolan films. But
Yeah, I
bottom
agree
2 or
with
3
that.
Christopher Nolan films is also still good.
Yeah.
So like his worst film is still it's a flawed, ambitious movie. Whatever, I'm gonna rewatch all of them in the next 6 weeks before I do my double feature of Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But and I don't know what'll come out at the bottom, but Tenet, Dark Knight Rises following for very different reasons kind of have them down there. I think all of them are very, but also flawed, but very interesting. And even when he fumbles, he doesn't fumble because he played it safe. He doesn't fumble because he did something boring. He did something big and ambitious, and maybe some of the pieces don't fit quite right. Maybe he had to make all these things happen. It lost some cohesiveness, but I think it's easily the weakest of the trilogy, but it also has some of the best moments of the trilogy.
Yeah.
There's elements, and like even things that like when the movie first came out, there was picking on Bane's voice, but it became iconic. And it's one of those things that was so weird and unexpected when they're like, that's what they're doing for Bane's voice. But now it's like legendary of just so perfectly weird. And literally just last week, I was going, what a lovely singing voice to my kids, and they're like, what is that? And I was like, oh, that's from The Dark Knight Rises. And I played them the scene. That's what we've been quoting all week. Is what a lovely singing voice. Just these strange little lines that somehow fit with this characterization. And so I think it has a lot to offer. While I think there's a lot of valid criticisms, but it does the a lot of the right things are right.
Yeah.
Well, I know your most recent video, I believe, was the hot takes of the new Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
And I love the part where you just kind of dox a 15-year-old.
You were just like,
You were just like, I was reading this comment and I went ahead and took a look at your profile. You're 15 and you can't speak. And I love that. I almost expected you to just be like, here's your home address. Just like
Mysterio.
Yeah, Mysterio,
yeah. I'd actually recorded more dunking on him, and I was like, 41-year-old dunking on 15-year-old. The punchline, you're 15, is enough. I don't need to elaborate. I don't need to be too mean here. Cover up his icon, cover up his name. But this is hilarious because he was so aggressive. That was like, to me, like, he can't, like, just like throwing punches, like, you're a effing moron, you're the stupidest person, how do you freaking not know? 15 years old. And I just stop and think in my mind, what if he said this in person? Like, I'm standing here, how does this play in person? Like, I'm over 6'2", 220, like pretty big in person.
yeah.
And a 15-year-old kid, you effing moron, you stupid idiot. You're like, I'm just imagining this kid shouting in my face. It's just so funny. The image of it is so funny to me because it's so like, why are you getting so mad that Across the Spider-Verse is #2? And even beyond, like, he didn't get the, like, in the full video I elaborated on it, but like the reason that Spider-Man 2002, he said, like, you grew up with this movie. No, man, I was a legal adult. I could get drafted into the military and die for my country when that movie came out. But like one of the things that I mentioned in the full video is, like, it's a movie that I saw after my dad died. It will always have a special place in my heart. That's not nostalgia. It's the magic of movies to provide an escape during hard times. There's more to it, and so it's kind of fun. But it was like, I wouldn't have like gone so hard on him if he didn't be so obnoxious, so ridiculous that it was like, when you behave like that, you need to get kind of put back down because you just shouted "F you, you're a moron" at a professional in a career path that's a grown-up. I might be older than his parents, so the image, it's so funny to me. But like, I literally said all this other stuff in the video too, and I was like, probably shouldn't dunk too hard on a kid.
Can you give us a taste of what some of the other stuff was?
Well, essentially, I kind of went off on this whole tangent of like, well, right, you're a kid. You think the last movie that you saw was the best movie you've ever seen. Right. That's classic kids. That when you're young, the last movie you saw, it's fresh and exciting. And so when you're young and you watch something that for the first time you watch it, it's kind of what we talked about in here. It's the legitimate side to the praise for it. What you guys are talking about, you watch it and it's the first time you've experienced it. You know, my son, what's his favorite movie? This is Dragon Ball Super, because that's what he like. The last exciting thing was like, wow, this is fresh and new. So right, 15, and so it was dunking on him for a thing that's kind of a positive. That there's a youthful energy. So I was like, I don't want to. I don't even know if that kid's gonna watch the video, or I don't even know what's gonna like. If he's aware that anything like that, because it's actually pulled from an Instagram comment. So I don't know if anything comes of it, but like. There's something positive about he's really excited about something fresh and interesting. That's a good thing to be excited about. But it's always bad to be an out-of-control jerk.
Yeah.
Like, I keep going back to it because the image is just so funny. Just imagining a 15-year-old standing in front of me saying any of that. It would never happen. It would never happen. But the internet gives this courage to where he's not even pausing to think before shouting at an adult. And I, obviously no idea what his household is like. I just imagine whenever my kids start being loose on the internet, at some point in time, my kids are going to do that stuff, and I'm going to be the embarrassed parent like, buddy, you can't say this.
Your son is going to like leave a comment on our podcast and be like, you guys suck. I'll be like, I know your dad.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna happen eventually. And that like I don't know. It was so funny to me. Whenever I was like, I was reading, it was like, wow, this guy's coming in hard.
Yeah.
15. There you go.
Yep.
There you go. There
So
it is.
funny.
So funny. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
We're hoping to collect the 6 Infinity Stones of Sean Chandler, Greg and John from The Real Rejects, The Weekly Planet, James and Meso, and then Coy Jandro. Yeah. So with that being said, what's Coy Jandro's phone number?
I did not actually get his phone number. I do have Greg's phone number.
What's Greg's phone number?
It's wild to me that that's a thing that I could actually say that in the last several months I got Greg and Perry Nemros's phone numbers.
That's awesome.
God, what is my life now that these are people I'm texting with from time to time?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Life is wild.
It is. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure having you. We hope to have you again sometime. Go ahead. Where can people find you?
On YouTube, look up Sean Chandler. You will either find an NFL player or a guy that looks like me and is talking about movies. It's the guy that looks like me and is talking about movies. On the Twitter, I'm at Kirk Never Died, and on the Instagram, Sean Talks About.
Awesome. Thank you again, and thank you all for listening. And we will catch you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
The Cinemaniacs podcast.